and the loudspeaker is distracting. Let me know on that. Okay, so Pacific Crest Trail. I'm gonna tell you a little bit about it, and we're gonna do some photos, including some trail photos, because this is the VFO. And but also before that, we'll tell a little bit about how would you plan for such a long trip. All right. So how did this start? It started back in 1988. So I started on the Appalachian Trail. I did halfway. I meant to do the whole way, but I got to Harper's Ferry in Maryland, and I had to quit for family reasons. Then I came out to New Mexico and got married, had kids, didn't have time for long trails. But they went off to college. Then I said, oh, I can go back and do trails. So 2012, I finished the AT. That was a blast. I wanted to do more, so I had a cunning plan. Let's do the CDT, but not all in one go. Let's split it up by the 4 states and do 1 state each year. That's about 700, 800 miles, pretty evenly distributed among the states, and actually pretty good transportation in between each of the states. So that's what I did. 2013 to 2016, completed the CDT. It was awesome. Wanted to do more, so I did the Grand Enchantment Trail. It goes between, it's not on here, it goes between Phoenix and then up to Albuquerque. Did that in 2017. So this year I wanted to do a trip all the way through hike, because I hadn't done any of these long trails as a through hike. So I got special permission from the wife, because you're talking 4 to 6 months. That's a long time to be gone. They will notice. So I got special permission and said, okay, this is a great way to celebrate my 60th birthday. So let's start it right after my 60th birthday, April 23rd. That's where I started in Campo. So here's my journey, and then here's the map. Goes down the Mexican border all the way to the Canadian border, actually goes into Canada a little bit. So, introduction. Okay, so we're talking about over 2,600 miles, 3 states. High is 13.1K, low is just 79 feet. And then here's what the elevation looks like, the elevation map. If you draw a line through 7K, you can see that you're near 7K for quite a bit of it. All right, so how would you do a hike like this? Well, online resources. The first one to go to, the best one to start with is the PCT association.org, and then it will point to you to maps and GPS coordinates, and those are free maps. You don't have to pay for them like you do on some of the trails. Then there is an annual survey of all of the hikers, so you can get an idea from there. What kind of equipment did they use? How long did they take? What was their favorite towns? What was their least favorite towns? All kinds of information. A valuable resource is the survey. And then you get a water and fire report, because it's going to change as you go on the trail. So whenever you get into town, you download the latest water and fire report for your section, and then you'll know which springs are dry, which creeks are flowing. So, and then are you having to divert, do a detour for fires? And I had to do a couple. You will talk about that later. Then something that you don't see from the PCTA, it's not a link, but Yogi has books. She also has books for the CDT, but she has a town guide that tells you the towns that you go through, where everything is that's useful for a hiker. Is it a good place to resupply? Is it a better place for you to go and mail food to, and all kinds of other good stuff. And then, trail name. We don't usually use our regular name on a hike. We use a trail name. It gets awarded to us. My trail name is Sagebrush, so if you want to learn more about the PCT or some of these other hikes, you can go to sagebrushtrails.com or email me, and I will drone on and on about it directly to you. All right, so you're going to put together a gear list. You don't need to be able to read this, but get an idea that you're going to make a spreadsheet with all the gear. And I found that if I could make my gear really lightweight, like 10 pounds or less, which is what this is. This is my actual gear. This is the actual clothes that I wore when I was hiking. I usually did long sleeve. Most people did short sleeve, but I did long sleeve. If you can get it to 10 pounds or less, you've got a superpower. You can hike a lot easier. And I noticed that even on food, I was using 2 pounds of food per day. The first day I was loaded up with the most food after town. The second day I was hiking better. The third day hiking better. So even 2 pounds makes a big difference. As far as gear, I do a lot of Z-packs, but I say that there's a lot of variety of gear. 2 different thru hikers are going to have very different gear. And this refers to sort of a geeky thing that in the Cambrian era, there was a whole bunch of evolution that happened all at once. I think that's happening in gear, especially for the thru hikers. There's a lot of choices on there. When you go and read the reviews, pay attention to who's giving you the review. Is it someone who's done a thru hike? Is it someone who's just got doing it for a magazine and they don't thru hike? And then what are their opinions on other gear? So anyway, so back to maps. We get these maps. You're going to print them out, 8.5 by 11, and you'll carry a few maps with you just for the section that you're on. There will be a lot of notes for the sections, and then there will be places that are marked for water. You can't really make it out here. They'll have the water that's marked on there. But the notes are very useful on it. And then also, we all use smartphones now, so there's an app. You can download the GPS coordinates from Half Mile. That he updates them every year, and you put them into an app that uses GPS. And then also, Half Mile has its own app, and this app goes and does it in text information. It's actually pretty useful, because let's say that this tells you that currently you're at mile 1,000. You know where your next water is. It's at 2.43 miles ahead. So, and it tells you what other things are going to be ahead. And you don't have to squint to a little map to see it. So I use this app all the time to find out where I was on fast. This particular trail is very well marked. You're not going to get lost too much. You're going to blog because you don't want to forget. After 10 years, you're going to forget, so you make a journal, and blogging is a great way to do it. I use WordPress. I think WordPress is what they use for the VFO website too, so it's great open source software. You're going to make a trip plan very often. You're going to have the list of the towns that you're at. You don't need to be able to read any of this, but you've got the towns, and then figure out which ones are better to have boxes mailed to you, which are ones that you want to go and buy locally there. And typically you'll mail yourself about 12 boxes. That's what I did, about 12, and then others you'll supply locally there. So, and then with my spreadsheet, it tells me which mile point each of the towns is, and then from that my spreadsheet tells me how many miles, and then from that estimates how many days, so you know how many days you've got to supply for. All right, food strategy that I did was a little bit unusual from other people. I want to go very lightweight, so no cook. That means no stove. And then I would not stop for breakfast or lunch, so I would just eat on the go, like one snack each hour. Sort of spread it out. Had a really big dinner, and then bare areas in the Sierras, no tuna. Food boxes. This shows my boxes. Usually priority mail, flat rate. You can get stuff a lot in one of those boxes. And then for the dinners, you do one of the zip bags, and you do one from column A, one from column B, and so forth. You don't do freeze-dried typically because that's way too expensive. But you can get, if you've got so many different choices for all the columns, it means you can have a lot of variety in the way you do things, especially if you have a lot of different spices. Okay, starting, now we get in the photo. So here's mile 0 at the monument at the Mexican border. Here's the border wall. All right, look, going back 5 miles, you can still see a border wall right there. And then, for some reason, near this one trail junction, there was a chicken living there because there were people, trail angels, that were giving snacks to hikers leaving it, and so people would eat an apple and they'd throw the core, and chicken eater would eat the core. So he was living on that. This is one of the first little towns that that we stopped at, and this town had a great idea. Let's take our community center, we'll convert it to a hiker welcome place, and hikers will come there, they'll spend money, and they'll donate to the community center. And also, there was an outfitter, a trail store that went and took a panel truck and made sort of a portable trail gear truck. And a lot of people were having trouble with their shoes because after a while your shoes start getting larger, your feet start getting wider, and your shoes get sore. So there's a big pile of shoes at one of the places at Warner Springs just because people throw away their shoes and get the next larger size shoes. They're having trouble. Here I ran into snow in San Jacinto Mountain. This is just past Idlewild. I'm just above the snow now, and I'm about to go back down in the snow. Big Bear Hostel. There's a guy named Metric Ton because he uses a 50-pound pack. That's his pack here. And then this is a young lady from the UK named Violet. She was sitting next to the pack to show how big the pack was. Deep Creek Hot Springs I didn't show it in this photo, but it's really large hot springs. There are lots of different channels in there. Really cool to spend some time. Some people spent like a couple of days there. I just took an hour just to get a photo, and then I went on. Someone took their backyard and said, okay, hikers, you're welcome to be there. And so many hikers would show up there that it became a machine. They have an operation, like a van goes every hour in the town. They've got showers for everybody. Just a really great operation, and very generous of these people. Oh, I didn't tell you on this, you've got to do a permit if you're going to through hike. They restricted to 30 people each day because so many people are trying to do the PCT. Otherwise it would clump up to a huge number of people. It would be 100 people starting on a day. So they restricted to 30 people a day. So it spreads it out. Well, across a little section of the Mojave Desert, we're going along an aqueduct that is covered with a metal pipe there. And then we get to an area, Tehachapi, that there's a huge wind farm. I've never seen one so big. It just goes on and on and on for over a day. There's several places where trail angels come and bring food for the hikers and make a real buffet for it. And they just get pleasure from donating to the hikers. It is really nice. And fresh fruit at this point is by mile 630 is really welcome. You enjoy that. Then you get to Kennedy Meadows. This is the start of the Sierras, a really high section that is really difficult. So people will spend a day here. Maybe this is the last chance to get gear or supply fixes before you get into the Sierras. And so here I am at a little bar named Grumpy Bear. They allow camping in their parking lot. It's a really nice place. Serve a good banana split. You do, like in the Sierras, you do a pass every day, typically. You get as close as you can to the pass the night before, then do the pass while the snow is still hard, and then try to race down as fast as you can before the snow softens up and you post-hole, where your leg goes all the way up to your thigh, suddenly, unexpectedly. So Forester Pass, and you're doing these beautiful scenes every day. It's amazing. Get to the little town of Independence, and I really like they have a museum there, and I really like their saying there. If you guys remember, I think it was the movie Chinatown, where they talk about water in LA. They're talking about getting water to the Owens Valley. It was up in this area. That is really far from LA. It's amazing how far they have the pipe water to assure themselves a supply. Another Muir Pass. I really enjoyed the pattern of the ice on the lake here. And then Mammoth Lakes, I ran into a guy named Bible. And this guy had an amazing story. He got stuck in a snowstorm in the Sierras. He got stuck for several days. He ran out of food, ran out of electricity. He was reported missing because he was gone for so long. He did hike out under his own power. He was never lost, but he was reported missing, and had to find the ranger and tell him that he was okay. So he got a lot of people saying mean things on social media because people said, oh, you should have gotten a spot, you should have done this, should have done that. Well, we're in the modern days of social media. People are going to second guess, but he was recovering. He was going to get back on the trail. Hope he finished. Now you're getting close to Yosemite, and look how the trail is flooded with water here from the snow melt. It's a pretty short season in Yosemite, just a few months of warm weather, and I'm just past snow melt, and it is really wet. I wish that they put some rocks for stepping stones along there, but it's something we don't have to worry about too much in New Mexico. This is for Chris. But you enjoy the rock works there. And then we finally get past the Sierras. I can give up my bear canister. In the Sierras, you have to use a bear canister for your food. This will protect the bears so that they don't learn that they can use human food. Bears don't have opposable thumbs, so they can't unscrew this. It's got a special tricky latch. But this is heavy, so finally I could get rid of this at North Kennedy Meadows. And then, and I just like the bear. I think it's great. All right, you see Lake Tahoe in the very distance there. So that means we're actually pretty close to Nevada. It's not Pacific Coast Trail, it's Pacific Crest Trail, so it's the inland mountain range there. Now this is an interesting, this is actually the outhouse. It has 2 stories because it's open during the winter. And there's so much snow, they have to have an upper story because the lower story is covered. So, and their cabin is built the same way. In the winter, the lower door is completely covered. So they have an upper door entrance to it, 2 stories. I have Belden. I'm going from 7K down to 2K. I'm looking down on this plane that, for some reason, that is going in this narrow river canyon. I don't know why that thing is there. I'm looking down on it, and I seem to be on switchbacks for hours on getting down to Belden. They're a nice resort place. A lot of music festivals there. I get into Lawson Park, and they have some good geothermal activity. And then a brown bear there. Bernie Falls is a state park. They have really nice falls there. A lot of people are walking that during the day. And then I get to a place that, excuse me, is strange. There's a smoldering spot, and it's about the size of a foot across, and is actively smoking. You can see a cigarette butt. Someone left it there, and it's really. And there's a lot of debris on the ground. This thing would have taken off. I used all my water to put it out. That wasn't enough. I stirred it as best I could so that it would be out. But I was amazed that was there. It wasn't really that close to a logging road, but there was one near there. Someone must have taken a smoke break or something. But that was scary for me. Castle Craigs, I just love some of the rock formations that you see. Mount Shasta, you see this for days and days. You're making this big loop around it. Syed Valley. I wasn't going to stop here, but we found that there was going to be a fire, probably a closure. So I stopped here with a bunch of other hikers. We're just going to see what we were going to do. The website wasn't updated on whether there was going to close, but we talked to people and we decided it probably would close. Let's go and hire somebody. We found someone who was staying at the RV park and hired them to take about 6 of us up to the next place, Ashland, which is good because during our hike, during our bypass there, here we are on I-5. This is smoke. The fire had crossed the interstate, and it was bad. And they actually did close the trail officially during our ride, so we guessed correctly, fortunately. Then later on, Crater Lake. So we're in Oregon now. The Syed Valley is right there. Going into Ashland, we were right there at the border. So now we're finally, California is a long state. Crater Lake is beautiful blue, and there's special clarity of the water, 179 feet. I think it's a record for freshwater lake, the clarity, and also you're looking down really deep. To get to the water. It's a lot further. This is 6 miles across to the other side of the lake, so this is really large. Then we're in the sisters, the 3 sisters. They're beautiful peaks that you see, and here we are at a large lava field. You can look back at the 3 sisters, this one, and this one. So you can see that there is still snow on these mountains. Mount Hood, I remember Mount Hood like when I was in Portland. Once every year, the clouds would finally part and you could see Mount Hood in the distance from Portland, but usually it was too cloudy. It was very amazingly just how sandy it is at the top of that one. It is really a sandy mountain. But Mount Hood has Timberline Lodge, it's a historic lodge at the top, and they have all-you-can-eat breakfast. And I tell you, for hikers, that is an amazing thing. So several of us, we had the hiker trash table. A bunch of us would go around and just had a great time for breakfast, meeting new hikers and old friends there. I had some old friends from back in 1980s when I used to live in Portland, so I got to visit them for a day. And then crossed over to Washington. Bridge of the Gods, I thought it was going to be a really amazing bridge. It was cool across the Columbia, but there's no pedestrian walkway. They are talking about building one. Goat Rock's Wilderness is amazing. I love it. The best part of the Washington State for me is up really high. You can see the trail going here, and it's going up over some of these peaks. And then you can look down on the ice fields below and see some of the mountain goats. It's just wonderful. You see Mount Rainier in the distance, you get closer and closer. Your cabin is just the cabin that's open for people, and it's also open in the winter for skiers. But there were a couple of trail angels here that just were preparing food for the hikers that came by. So these are true hikers that stayed overnight like I did, and then the trail angels just made us food. It was very nice. Alpine Lakes Wilderness is another wonderful one, just huge number of lakes. And then Glacier Peaks Wilderness, I mean, we really did get a lot of snow and with the glacier fields up near there. It's beautiful. And then we got to a fire detour, and it was a well-marked detour. But they wanted to make sure we did not go past any further. And then I did get past that detour and went to this other place, and you could see there was an active fire here, but it is not close enough to the trail, so they didn't close it. But you could see that it would change during the day. It would start out in the cool morning, it would be a really low fire, and then it would boil up in the evening, in the afternoon as it got warmer, and then maybe die down again. So it would do these cycles, and people in Washington are used to that. It does that all the time. Hart's Pass is one of the last passes with a trailhead with cars that will go to before you get to the Canada border. So that's popular for some of the people that don't go to into Canada, decided to stop because maybe they didn't have their passport with them, or they had a DWI. If you had anything like that, you don't get to go into Canada. So yeah, it's strange. So I decided to go into Canada because it would look better on my blog.